Rachel, what are you hiding from me? I'm not just a caregiver. I'm your wife. My voice trembled as I confronted my husband, my eyes threatening to spill over. Rachel looked up from his laptop, his expression a mix of annoyance and dismissal. Monica, please, I don't have time for your dramatics. I have important work to do. I clenched my fists, the hidden drawer of love letters and intimate photos burning in my mind. Don't brush me off like I'm some hired help. I found your little secret stash. Who is she? Rachel sighed, closing his laptop. It was a long time ago, before we were married. Ancient history. Ancient history? I scoffed. Those photos look pretty recent to me, and the letters are dated from last year. Enough, Rachel snapped, his voice sharp. I don't have to explain myself to you. Your job is to take care of my mother, not pry into my personal affairs. I recoiled as if he'd slapped me. Your mother? Is that all I am to you? A glorified nurse? Rachel stood, towering over me. Don't be so dramatic. You knew what you were getting into when you married into this family. I opened my mouth to protest, but he cut me off. I have to go. Mother needs her medication. He brushed past me, leaving me trembling with a potent mix of anger and hurt. As the front door slammed, I sank onto the couch, tears streaming down my cheeks. How had my life come to this? I was a successful caregiver before meeting Rachel, respected and independent. Now I felt like a prisoner in my own home, trapped by the weight of his indifference and the secrets he kept. But as the anger simmered within me, a newfound determination took root. I wouldn't be dismissed or ignored any longer. It was time to take control of my life and uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. I wiped my tears and stood, my hands steady. Rachel might think he could brush me aside, but he had no idea what I was capable of. I was done being the obedient wife. It was time to fight back. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I pored over the hidden letters and photos, piecing together the sordid details of Rachel's affair. The woman's name was Samantha, and their trysts had been going on for years, even after our marriage. But the betrayal ran deeper than just infidelity. I also uncovered evidence of financial mismanagement, with Rachel siphoning funds from his mother's accounts for his own use. Judith, my frail mother-in-law, was being taken advantage of by her own son. As the truth unraveled, my anger grew, fueled by a newfound sense of purpose. I wouldn't just confront Rachel. I would take back control of my life and protect Judith from further exploitation. The day Rachel returned from one of his business trips, I was ready. I laid out the evidence on the coffee table, my hands trembling with a mix of nerves and anticipation. When he walked through the door, his eyes widened at the sight of the damning letters and bank statements. Monica, what is all this? I met his gaze, my voice steady. The truth, Rachel. The truth about your affair, your lies, and your betrayal of this family. His expression hardened. How dare you go through my personal belongings? How dare you treat me like a servant in my own home? I shot back. I'm your wife, not some hired help, and I won't stand for your disrespect any longer. Rachel opened his mouth to protest, but I held up a hand, silencing him. It's my turn to talk. I know everything about Samantha, about the money you've been stealing from your mother. It ends now. His face paled, and for the first time I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. I had finally taken back control, and there was no turning back. As I laid out my demands, a divorce, full custody of the assets, and a promise to never mistreat Judith again, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The shackles of my oppression were finally broken, and a new chapter of my life was beginning. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight for my independence and my self-respect. Rachel had underestimated me for far too long, but those days were over. I was a force to be reckoned with, and nothing would stand in my way. The sprawling Victorian house loomed before me, its weathered exterior a stark contrast to the immaculate grounds. As I stepped inside, the musty scent of old furniture and faded memories enveloped me. "Welcome to your new home," Rachel said flatly, setting down my suitcase. "Mother's room is down the hall, and Karen's is upstairs." I nodded, already feeling like an intruder in this place. Rachel had made it clear that my role was to care for his aging mother, Judith, while he and his sister, Karen, handled the important matters. As if on cue, Karen descended the staircase, her perfectly coiffed hair and designer outfit a sharp contrast to the house's faded grandeur. Her eyes narrowed as she appraised me. "So, you're the new help," she said, her tone dripping with disdain. "I hope you're up to the task of caring for Mother. She can be quite demanding." I bristled at her dismissive tone, but before I could respond, a frail voice called out from down the hall. "Rachel? Is that you, dear?" Rachel sighed and gestured for me to follow. "Come on, let's get you acquainted with Mother." Judith's room was a sanctuary of sorts, filled with plush furnishings and the scent of lavender. The elderly woman herself was propped up in bed, her once vibrant features now etched with age and weariness. "Mother, this is Monica," Rachel said, his tone softening slightly. "She'll be taking care of you from now on." Judith's eyes brightened as she regarded me. "Oh, how lovely. It's so nice to have a friendly face around here." Karen scoffed from the doorway. "Don't get too attached, Mother. She's just the help." Judith's expression hardened. "Karen, that's enough. Monica is a guest in our home, and she will be treated with respect." I felt a surge of gratitude towards Judith, even as Karen rolled her eyes and stalked away. At least one person in this family seemed to have a shred of decency. Over the next few days, I settled into a routine of caring for Judith's needs while navigating the treacherous waters of the household dynamics. Karen made no secret of her disdain for me, constantly belittling my efforts and questioning my competence. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" she would sneer as I helped Judith with her medication or physical therapy. Mother deserves only the best care. Judith, bless her soul, would always come to my defense. "Karen, stop harassing the poor girl. Monica is doing an excellent job." Still, the constant criticism wore me down, and I found myself retreating to the solitude of Judith's room whenever possible. There, at least, I could escape the weight of Karen's hostility and Rachel's indifference. One afternoon, as I was helping Judith with her exercises, she fixed me with a piercing gaze. "Monica, dear, you seem troubled. Is everything all right?" I hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal, but there was a kindness in Judith's eyes that compelled me to open up. "It's just this household, your family." I trailed off, searching for the right words. "Karen treats me like a servant, and Rachel barely acknowledges my existence. I feel so alone here." Judith's expression softened. "I know, dear. Karen has always been difficult. And Rachel, well, he's become a different man than the son I raised." She reached out and patted my hand. "But you mustn't let them break your spirit. You're a strong, capable woman, and you deserve far better than the way they've treated you." Her words ignited a spark within me, a newfound determination to stand up for myself and uncover the truth behind this family's secrets. If Judith could see my worth, then perhaps it was time I started seeing it too. As I helped Judith back into bed, I made a silent vow. No more would I cower in the face of Karen's cruelty or Rachel's neglect. I would unravel the mysteries of this household, one thread at a time, until I regained control of my life and my dignity. The weight of unseen chains had held me down for too long, but with Judith's support and my own resilience I would break free, no matter what it took. The shrill ring of the phone pierced the silence, shattering the fragile tranquility that had settled over the house. I hurried to answer it, half expecting Rachel's voice on the other end. "Hello? Monica, it's me." Rachel's tone was clipped, businesslike. "I have some news." I steeled myself, bracing for whatever bombshell he was about to drop. With Rachel, it was always one drama after another. "Karen and I are going on a trip, a necessary business venture to Hawaii. We'll be gone for a few weeks." My heart sank. Of course, another trip, another excuse to abandon his responsibilities. But this time, the sting was sharper, the betrayal more acute. "You're leaving me here alone? To take care of your mother by myself?" I fought to keep my voice steady. "Don't be dramatic," Rachel scoffed. "You're more than capable of handling things. Karen and I have important matters to attend to." In the background, I heard Karen's muffled voice, followed by a burst of laughter. The sound grated on my nerves, that a cruel reminder of the disdain they held for me. "But what about us?" I pressed, desperate to make him understand. "What about our marriage?" Rachel sighed, his impatience palpable. "Monica, we'll discuss this when I get back. Just focus on taking care of Mother, all right?" The line went dead, leaving me clutching the phone, a torrent of emotions swirling within me. Anger, hurt, frustration, they all coalesced into a burning determination. If Rachel and Karen thought they could just discard me, treat me like some disposable servant, they were sorely mistaken. I was done being the meek, obedient wife. It was time to take action. Over the next few days, I threw myself into caring for Judith, channeling my pent-up energy into ensuring her every need was met. But even as I tended to her, my mind was whirring, formulating a plan. I knew there were secrets lurking beneath the surface of this family, dark undercurrents that Rachel and Karen were desperate to keep hidden, and I intended to uncover them all, one by one. Judith, bless her soul, seemed to sense my determination. She would watch me with a knowing look in her eyes, offering subtle words of encouragement. "You're a strong woman, Monica," she said one day as I helped her with her exercises. "Don't let them break your spirit." Her words only fueled my resolve. If Judith, who had endured years of neglect from her own children, could still find the strength to persevere, then so could I. As the days ticked by, I began to notice little things: whispered phone calls, furtive glances, a strange tension in the air. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. And then, one fateful afternoon, I stumbled upon a clue that would unravel everything. I was changing the linens in Rachel's study when a loose floorboard caught my eye. Curiosity piqued, I pried it open, revealing a hidden compartment beneath. And there, nestled among the dust and cobwebs, was a stack of envelopes addressed to Rachel in an unfamiliar handwriting. With trembling hands, I opened one, my eyes widening as I scanned the contents. It was a love letter, filled with intimate details and endearments, signed by a woman named Samantha. The pieces began to fall into place: Rachel's frequent business trips, his dismissive attitude towards me, the secrets he so desperately tried to conceal. He was having an affair, right under my nose. But as I dug deeper, poring over the letters and the accompanying photos, a sickening realization dawned on me. This wasn't just a casual fling. It was a long-term betrayal that had been going on for years, even before our marriage. White-hot fury coursed through my veins, burning away any lingering doubts or hesitations. Rachel had made a fool of me, disrespected me in the most profound way possible, and now he would pay the price. As I carefully replaced the floorboard, a steely determination settled over me. No more would I be the meek, submissive wife. It was time to take back control, to expose the truth and make Rachel face the consequences of his actions. The false tranquility that had blanketed this household was about to be shattered, and I would be the one wielding the hammer. The days crawled by in a blur of monotony and exhaustion. With Rachel and Karen gone, the burden of caring for Judith fell squarely on my shoulders. I rose before dawn and worked well into the night, tending to her every need with a dutiful diligence that belied the turmoil simmering beneath the surface. Judith, bless her soul, seemed to sense my inner struggle. She would watch me with those keen, knowing eyes, offering words of encouragement and support when I felt like crumbling under the weight of it all. "You're a remarkable woman, Monica," she would say, her frail hands squeezing mine. "Don't let them break you." Her words were a lifeline, a reminder that I was not alone in this battle against Rachel and Karen's callous disregard. Judith, too, had suffered at the hands of her own children's neglect, and yet she persevered with a quiet strength that humbled me. It was during one of our late-night talks that the first crack in the facade appeared. Judith had been unusually restless that evening, fidgeting and casting furtive glances around the room. "Monica, dear," she whispered, her voice trembling with urgency. "I need to show you something." Before I could respond, she had thrown off her blankets and swung her legs over the side of the bed. To my utter astonishment, she rose to her feet, standing tall and steady, a far cry from the frail, bedridden woman I had grown accustomed to. "But how?" I stammered, my eyes wide. Judith offered me a sly smile. "Let's just say I've been playing a little game of my own with Rachel and Karen." She crossed the room with surprising agility, retrieving a battered shoebox from the back of her closet. Inside were stacks of documents, checkbooks, and bank statements, a veritable treasure trove of financial records. "I've been keeping an eye on their dealings for years," Judith confided, her voice laced with bitterness. "Those ungrateful children of mine have been bleeding me dry, siphoning off funds for their own selfish desires." As she spread the documents before me, the full scope of Rachel and Karen's deception became clear. Forged signatures, hidden accounts, embezzled funds, it was all there, a tangled web of greed and betrayal. They thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, Judith spat, her eyes flashing with righteous anger, but I've been on to their games for far too long. In that moment, a profound shift occurred within me. The meek, downtrodden woman I had been mere weeks ago was gone, replaced by a steely resolve that mirrored Judith's own. If she, an elderly woman betrayed by her own flesh and blood, could find the strength to fight back, then so could I. As Judith and I pored over the damning evidence, a plan began to take shape. A plan to not only expose Rachel and Karen's misdeeds, but to reclaim the power and dignity they had so callously stripped from us. "We'll make them pay, Monica," Judith vowed, her voice laced with determination. "They'll rue the day they ever underestimated us." And so a covert alliance was forged, one built on shared pain and a burning desire for retribution. Judith and I became co-conspirators, united in our quest to unravel the tangled web of lies and deceit that had ensnared us both. As the days ticked by, our clandestine efforts intensified. We pored over financial records, meticulously documenting every discrepancy and irregularity. We strategized, plotting our every move with the precision of seasoned generals preparing for battle. And through it all, a newfound strength blossomed within me, a strength born of Judith's unwavering support and my own indomitable spirit. The shackles of oppression that had once bound me were falling away, replaced by a fierce determination to take back control of my life. Rachel and Karen might have thought they had me cornered, but they had gravely underestimated the power of two women scorned. The tides were turning, and soon the reckoning they so richly deserved would be upon them. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of clandestine activity. Judith and I became co-conspirators, united in our quest to dismantle the web of lies and deceit that had ensnared us both. Under the guise of caring for her ailing mother, I meticulously rearranged the household finances, diverting funds back into Judith's accounts and cutting off Rachel and Karen's access to her assets. With each transaction, I felt a surge of empowerment, reclaiming the control they had so callously stripped from us. Judith, for her part, was a force to be reckoned with. Gone was the frail, bedridden woman I had first encountered. In her place stood a formidable ally, her mind sharp and her determination unwavering. "They thought they could bleed me dry," she would say, her eyes flashing with righteous anger. "But they underestimated the lengths a mother will go to protect what's hers." Together, we pored over financial records, cross-checking every transaction, every withdrawal, every cent that had been siphoned away by Rachel and Karen's greed. It was a painstaking process, but one that fueled our resolve with each damning piece of evidence we uncovered. As the days ticked by, our clandestine efforts intensified. We held hushed conversations late into the night, strategizing our every move with the precision of seasoned generals preparing for battle. Judith's rehabilitation progressed in secret, her newfound strength a testament to the indomitable spirit that burned within her, and through it all, a profound shift occurred within me. The meek, downtrodden woman I had once been was no more, replaced by a steely resolve forged in the fires of betrayal and oppression. I was no longer content to simply weather the storm. I was determined to turn the tide, to reclaim the power and dignity that had been so callously stripped from me. With each passing day, our preparations grew more intricate, our plans more meticulously crafted. We rearranged the household staff, ensuring only those loyal to Judith remained. We secured copies of crucial documents, building an ironclad case against Rachel and Karen's misdeeds. And all the while the anticipation mounted, a palpable tension that crackled in the air like static electricity. We knew the reckoning was coming, the moment when the carefully constructed facade would shatter and the truth would be laid bare for all to see. As the date of Rachel and Karen's return drew near, a sense of calm settled over me. Gone were the doubts and insecurities that had once plagued me. In their place was a steely resolve, a quiet confidence born of the knowledge that we held the upper hand. The night before their arrival, Judith and I shared a final hushed conversation, our voices laced with determination. "Tomorrow the gloves come off," Judith declared, her eyes blazing with intensity. "No more hiding, no more pretenses. It's time to make them face the consequences of their actions." I nodded, my jaw set. They won't know what hit them. As we parted ways, a sense of purpose coursed through my veins. The stage was set, the players in position. All that remained was for the curtain to rise on the final act of our grand performance. The following morning, I rose before dawn, my nerves thrumming with anticipation. This was it, the moment we had been preparing for, the culmination of weeks of meticulous planning and unwavering determination. As I went about my morning routine, a strange sense of calm washed over me. Gone were the doubts and insecurities that had once plagued me. In their place was a quiet confidence, a knowledge that I was finally in control of my own destiny. The sound of the front door opening jolted me from my reverie. Showtime. I steeled myself, squaring my shoulders and lifting my chin. No more would I cower in the face of Rachel and Karen's cruelty. Today, the tables would turn, and they would be the ones forced to confront the consequences of their actions. As they swept into the foyer, tanned and relaxed from their Hawaiian getaway, I felt a surge of satisfaction at the looks of surprise on their faces. They had expected to find a meek, subservient housewife, but what they encountered was a woman reborn, a phoenix rising from the ashes of her former self. "Welcome home," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "We have much to discuss." The moment Rachel and Karen swept through the door, tanned and relaxed from their Hawaiian getaway, I knew the game was afoot. They had expected to find a meek, subservient housewife, but what they encountered was a woman reborn, a phoenix rising from the ashes of her former self. "Welcome home," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "We have much to discuss." Rachel's brow furrowed as he took in the scene before him. The stacks of financial records, the steely determination etched into my features. "Monica, what is all this?" Before he could utter another word, Judith emerged from the shadows, her posture erect and her eyes blazing with a fire I had never seen before. "It's time you faced the truth, son," she said, her voice laced with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "The lies, the deceit, the utter disrespect you've shown not just to Monica, but to me as well." Karen's eyes widened as she took in her mother's transformation. "Mother, what's going on here?" "What's going on," I interjected, "is that we've uncovered the truth about your little schemes, the embezzlement, the misappropriation of funds. It all ends now." Rachel's face paled as I laid out the evidence before them, bank statements, canceled checks, a paper trail that left no room for doubt. His hands trembled as he sifted through the damning documents, his carefully constructed facade crumbling with each new revelation. How did you find all this?" he stammered, his eyes darting between Judith and me. "Did you really think you could pull the wool over our eyes forever?" Judith scoffed. "I may be old, but I'm not a fool. I've known about your misdeeds for years, but I never imagined you'd stoop so low as to betray your own wife." It was then that I revealed the final piece of evidence, the love letters and intimate photos that had set this entire chain of events in motion. "You've been having an affair, Rachel," I said, my voice laced with a mixture of hurt and righteous anger. "With a woman named Samantha. For years, you've been lying to me, disrespecting me, treating me like some hired help instead of your wife." Karen's eyes widened in shock, but Rachel merely shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "So what?" he sneered. "You think a few love letters and some financial mismanagement give you the right to turn on your own family?" His words cut deep, but I refused to let him see my pain. Instead, I met his gaze with a steely resolve that seemed to unnerve him. "This isn't about turning on anyone, Rachel," I said. "This is about reclaiming the dignity and respect you've so callously stripped from us, from me, and from your own mother." Judith stepped forward, her frail frame belying the strength of her conviction. "You've taken advantage of me for the last time, son. From now on, I'll be the one calling the shots. And if you think for one second that I'll let you continue to mistreat Monica, you're sorely mistaken." Rachel's eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought he might lash out. But then something shifted in his demeanor, a flicker of fear passing across his features as he realized the true extent of our alliance. Karen, ever the opportunist, seized the moment to try and regain control of the situation. "Mother, you can't be serious," she pleaded. "Think of the family name, the legacy we've built. You can't just throw it all away on some misguided sense of loyalty to this outsider." But Judith was having none of it. "The only ones who have tarnished this family's name are you and your brother," she spat. "With your greed, your selfishness, your utter disregard for anyone but yourselves." As the confrontation escalated, the true depths of Rachel and Karen's depravity were laid bare. Long-buried grievances and resentments bubbled to the surface, tearing through the carefully constructed facade of familial harmony. Through it all, I stood tall, my resolve unwavering. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the culmination of weeks of careful planning and unwavering determination. And as the dust settled, one thing became abundantly clear. The balance of power had shifted, and Rachel and Karen were no longer the ones calling the shots. With Judith's support and the weight of the evidence on our side, we had exposed their true natures, their selfish motivations, and callous disregard for anyone but themselves. And in doing so, we had reclaimed the control they had so ruthlessly stripped from us. As Rachel and Karen sputtered and raged, their once formidable personas reduced to petulant tantrums, I felt a sense of triumph wash over me. The shackles of oppression had been broken, and a new chapter was about to begin, one where I would never again be subjugated or disrespected. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. There would be more confrontations, more challenges to face as we worked to dismantle the toxic legacy Rachel and Karen had built. But for the first time in a long time, I felt truly empowered, emboldened by the knowledge that I was no longer alone. With Judith by my side, a newfound ally and confidant, I knew that no obstacle was too great, no adversary too formidable. We had faced down the demons of our past and emerged victorious, and nothing would ever be the same again. The confrontation that followed was like a dam bursting, unleashing a torrent of long-buried grievances and resentments that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. As Rachel and Karen sputtered and raged, their once formidable personas reduced to petulant tantrums, the true depths of their depravity were laid bare. Accusations flew, bitter recriminations echoing off the walls as the carefully constructed facade of familial harmony shattered into a million pieces. Through it all, I stood tall, my resolve unwavering. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the culmination of weeks of careful planning and unwavering determination. And with Judith by my side, a newfound ally and confidant, I knew that no obstacle was too great, no adversary too formidable. Rachel, his eyes wild with a mixture of anger and fear, lashed out like a cornered animal. "You think you've won, don't you?" he spat, his words laced with venom. "You think a few financial discrepancies and some tawdry love letters give you the right to turn on your own family?" But Judith was having none of it. "Don't you dare try to twist this around, son," she said, her voice trembling with a lifetime's worth of pent-up frustration. "You and your sister have been bleeding me dry for years, taking advantage of my trust and my love for your own selfish gain. Karen, ever the opportunist, tried to deflect the blame onto me. She's poisoned you against us, Mother," she pleaded. "Can't you see she's just an outsider trying to tear this family apart for her own benefit?" But Judith's resolve was unshakable. "The only ones who have tarnished this family's name are you and your brother," she spat. "With your greed, your selfishness, your utter disregard for anyone but yourselves." As the arguments raged on, the true motivations behind Rachel and Karen's actions became painfully clear. Rachel, driven by a deep-seated sense of entitlement and a desire for material wealth, had seen his mother's assets as a personal piggy bank to be plundered at his whim. And Karen, bitter and resentful, had harbored a lifelong grudge against her brother, feeling overshadowed and unloved. Her spite towards me was merely an extension of that deep-rooted resentment, a misguided attempt to regain some semblance of control over a life that had always seemed to slip through her fingers. Through it all, my role became clear, to be the advocate, the voice of reason that guided Judith through the maelstrom of emotions and betrayals. With my support, she reclaimed control over her assets, her finances, her very life that had been so callously stripped from her by her own children. And as the dust settled, the true extent of Rachel and Karen's misdeeds became painfully clear. The embezzlement, the financial mismanagement, the utter disregard for their own mother's well-being, it was all laid bare, a damning indictment of their selfishness and greed. But even as they faced the consequences of their actions, Even as the weight of their transgressions threatened to crush them, they remained defiant, lashing out with bitter recriminations and empty threats. "You'll regret this, Mother," Karen spat, her eyes blazing with fury. "We're your only family, and you've turned your back on us for that outsider." Rachel, his once charming facade crumbling, tried a different tack. "Think about what you're doing," he pleaded, his voice tinged with desperation. "We're blood, Mother. Surely that counts for something." But Judith was unmoved, her resolve steeled by years of neglect and betrayal. "Blood means nothing if it's poisoned by greed and selfishness," she said, her voice heavy with sadness. "You made your choices, and now you must face the consequences." As Rachel and Karen stormed out, their threats and recriminations echoing in their wake, a strange sense of calm settled over me. The battle had been won, the illusions shattered, and the path forward was clear. Judith turned to me, her eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and newfound strength. "Thank you, Monica," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "For everything." I nodded, feeling a profound sense of connection with this remarkable woman who had endured so much. "We did it together," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "And now we can start anew, free from the shackles of their manipulation and deceit." As we stood there, united in our resolve, I knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous. There would be more battles to fight, more obstacles to overcome, as we worked to dismantle the toxic legacy Rachel and Karen had left in their wake. But for the first time in a long time, I felt truly empowered, emboldened by the knowledge that I was no longer alone. With Judith by my side, a kindred spirit and a fellow warrior, I knew that no challenge was too great, no adversary too formidable. The shattered illusions of the past had given way to a new reality, one forged in the fires of resilience and determination. And as we stepped forward into the unknown, I felt a sense of purpose and resolve that had been absent for far too long. The journey ahead would be long, but with Judith at my side, I knew that we would emerge victorious, our bond forged in the crucible of adversity and our spirits tempered by the flames of redemption. The aftermath of the confrontation was like a whirlwind, a flurry of activity, as Judith and I worked to dismantle the toxic legacy Rachel and Karen had left in their wake. With their departure, a weight had been lifted, and a newfound sense of purpose propelled us forward. The first order of business was securing Judith's assets and ensuring that Rachel and Karen could no longer siphon funds for their own selfish desires. It was a painstaking process, one that involved poring over financial records and closing loopholes they had exploited for years. But with each account secured, each paper trail severed, I felt a surge of empowerment. This was more than just righting a financial wrong. It was a symbolic reclamation of the control and dignity they had so callously stripped from us. As the dust settled, Judith and I turned our attention to the future, a future free from the shackles of their manipulation and deceit. For me, that meant leaving the sprawling Victorian house that had once felt like a gilded cage and striking out on my own. With Judith's blessing and the financial means she had reclaimed, I found a cozy apartment in the heart of the city, a sanctuary where I could begin to rebuild my life on my own terms. The process of divorce was swift and decisive, a clean break from the toxic marriage that had nearly broken me. And as I settled into my new surroundings, a sense of peace washed over me. Gone were the constant reminders of Rachel's betrayal, the echoes of Karen's cruel barbs. In their place was a newfound sense of freedom, a liberation from the oppressive weight of their expectations and demands. But even as I embraced this new chapter, I knew that my journey was far from over. The scars of their emotional abuse ran deep, and there were moments when the ghosts of the past threatened to overwhelm me. It was during those times that I turned to my oldest friend and confidant, Ben Peterson. A fellow caregiver from my days before marriage, Ben had been a constant source of support and encouragement, urging me to confront my oppressors and reclaim my independence. "You're a survivor, Monica," he would say, his warm smile and unwavering belief in me a balm for my wounded soul. "You faced down demons that would have crushed lesser women, and you've emerged stronger for it." With Ben's guidance, I began to rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self-worth. I found a job at a prestigious caregiving agency where my skills and experience were valued and respected. And as I immersed myself in my work, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder of the woman I had been before Rachel's betrayal had nearly broken me. But even as I forged ahead, Judith's journey was just beginning. With her assets secured and her children's influence finally severed, she made the bold decision to leave the Victorian house behind and start anew. I'll never forget the day she called me, her voice trembling with excitement. "Monica, I've found the most wonderful retirement community," she gushed. "A place where I can truly live, surrounded by people who appreciate me for who I am, not what I can provide them." As I helped her pack up her belongings and bid farewell to the house that had been both a prison and a sanctuary, I saw a transformation unfold before my eyes. Gone was the frail, downtrodden woman I had first encountered, replaced by a vibrant, radiant soul who had reclaimed her zest for life. In the months that followed, Judith flourished in her new surroundings, embracing a world of new experiences and friendships. She took up painting, traveled to exotic locales, and even found a special someone, a kind-hearted widower who cherished her for the remarkable woman she was. And as I watched her blossom, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude and kinship. Judith had been my ally, my co-conspirator in the battle against Rachel and Karen's oppression. And now, we were both reaping the rewards of our hard-won victory, basking in the freedom and self-respect we had so fiercely fought for. As for Rachel and Karen, their names were rarely spoken, their influence reduced to distant echoes of a past we had both left behind. The toxic legacy they had tried to impose upon us had been dismantled, brick by brick, until nothing remained but the ashes of their own hubris and greed. In those rare moments when their memory did surface, it was met with a sense of indifference, a testament to the growth and resilience Judith and I had cultivated. They were mere footnotes in the grand narrative of our lives, footnotes that held no power over us any longer. And as I looked to the future, a future filled with possibility and promise, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound gratitude for the journey that had brought me to this point. The path had been arduous, fraught with pain and betrayal, but it had also forged me into the woman I was today, strong, resilient, and unbreakable. The shackles of oppression had been cast off, and a new horizon beckoned, one where Judith and I could bask in the warmth of hard-won freedom and self-respect. It was a future we had fought for, tooth and nail, and one that we would embrace with open arms, unburdened by the weight of the past.